high school on Mean Girls and Cliques, underlying politics, societal perspective, and its impact on developing teenagers. The world as we know it today is based on a social hierarchy, one that has existed for many years already, and this social hierarchy is something we actually grow up with. When we are kids, the one who have the newest toys or the best toys are always at the top of this hierarchy. Then, as we enter adolescence, it's the most popular peers who are at the top of this hierarchy. At work, it's the people who have the most influence and power over other job positions. As we can see here, the social hierarchy has always been based on who has more toys, who has more friends, who has more power. Regardless of how or where we grow up, it's always there, and people know it. Films and series based on high school are the ones that showcase this social dynamic better than anyone else, often including the ever-popular Mean Girl and Cliques who are said to rule the school. But what exactly is a mean girl? When referring to fictional archetypes, the mean girl is the queen bee, the it girl. Everyone wants to either be her or be with her. She might not be the most beautiful girl, but she sure is the most influential one. In simpler terms, she is the most popular girl in her circle. The mean girl is at the top of the social hierarchy, and almost everyone is often afraid of her, but still, she is glorified. In psychology-wise, the mean girl is very clever, intelligent, and manipulative. Sure, they might not always be the most academically intelligent characters, but they possess a great social intelligence and understanding of how society works better than anyone else and use these to their advantage. Something worth mentioning is the difference in how male and female popularity is portrayed. In teen films, often the jock is the most popular boy in school. He's often dumb and really doesn't bring anything to the table, while the mean girl is very intelligent, manipulative, using femininity and girl aggression to control her peers. The best-known mean girl and best example of this archetype is, and I'm sure you guessed it, Regina George. Regina George is the main antagonist in the 2004 film Mean Girls, starring Lindsay Lohan as the protagonist Katie Heron and Rachel McAdams looking enviably young at 30 years old when characterizing Regina. Regina is undeniably intelligent and confident. She mostly takes advantage of her looks, connections, and wealth to further position herself above everyone else. She dictates what's in and what's out, who's popular and who's not. By all means, she is a dictator, but despite her influence, she's overthrown by Katie. Katie Heron is the protagonist of the film. Katie was a homeschooled African girl that had just started her senior year at North Shore High. Upon sensing competition because of how pretty, conventionally attractive Katie was, Regina decided to include her in her clique. As time passed, and Katie gained Regina's and the rest of her clique's trust, she started to see really how mean and manipulative Regina was. The best example being the following clip.
So sexy pushback. Katie, will you please tell him his hair looks sexy pushback?
Regina was dangling Aaron in front of me on purpose. I knew how this would be settled in the animal world. But this was girl world.
Your hair looks sexy pushback.
The previous clip showed how Regina used her knowledge on the crush Katie had on Aaron Samuels to exercise power over Katie by making her tell him he looked handsome. Being under Regina's power, Katie could not disobey Regina, as she would insinuate her crush on Aaron, and in an extreme outcome, could end up as a social outcast by getting removed from Regina's clique, the Plastics. Another famous example of a mean girl is Courtney Shane, the main antagonist in the 1999's dark comedy film Jawbreaker. While Mean Girls was a comedy-centered film on how Katie became a mean girl, Jawbreaker's main storyline is much darker, revolving around murder. The film starts by introducing us to Liz Purr, Reagan High's most popular girl. She is often compared to a queen and said to have ruled the school with kindness. Liz Purr is kidnapped as a joke by her friends for a birthday surprise. She was gagged with a jawbreaker. For those of you who don't know what a jawbreaker is, it's this candy. They put her back in the trunk when her clique arrived at the restaurant, which was a surprise for Legs. They found her dead. Courtney Shane, Liz's second-in-command, decides to cover up the murder. After Liz's death, Courtney became the queen bee. But instead of ruling with kindness, as Liz did, she ruled with fear. She was a dictator. Students were afraid of her. As said by Fern Mayo, the film's main protagonist, she is so mean, and she is only in high school. By juxtaposing the portrayal of both Liz and Courtney as queen bees, there is a clear difference in how they are both perceived. While Liz is perceived as kind and nice, Courtney is perceived as mean and cold. Both Regina and Courtney were perceived as dictators. And we are all sure that every dictator has its band of loyal followers. The cliques. Every dictator has loyal followers, just as every celebrity has fans. And fans and followers aren't really that much different from each other. Both followers and fans glorify their leaders, never thinking they could do something wrong, as some sort of halo effect. Always sticking by their side, ignoring anything wrong they did, and always defending them. Every Mean Girl has a set of loyal followers, their clique, which mostly compromises two members apart from the Mean Girl, whom are always under the control of the Mean Girl. These cliques are usually very exclusive. The Mean Girl grasps onto the idea that in high school, rejection is key to worship. So they tend to keep the members of their clique both extremely attractive and exclusive to maintain interest and mystery over their social circle. The social hierarchy revolves around maintaining and protecting the queen bee. So, for this system to function, two main members must always be present. The clique's number two, and often the Mean Girl's right hand, is the follower. She is the second in command, always reinforcing the leader's rules and ambitions. She is the leader's main confidant, loyal, blindly obedient follower. They always need someone to serve, often not having an independent personality and mindset, only strictly following the leader's rules. They do all the leader's dirty work, often not receiving anything in return, such as reinforcing dress codes or collecting useful information that the leader might use to their advantage. Her presence in the clique is crucial for her to maintain its efficacy and systematic authority in the social hierarchy. And if their commitment to the leader is threatened, the whole system will fall apart. The main examples of the follower we have is Gretchen Wieners under Queen Bee Regina George, Santana Lopez under Queen Bee Queen Fabray, and Marcy Fox under the Killer Queen Courtney Shane. The third girl in the group is the pretty face. She is always beautiful and kind, often being represented as innocent and naive. This image helps the clique to appear more authentic, covering up every bad aspect the leader and the follower may have. She is not as crucial to the clique as the follower is, as she can be easily replaced. Regardless, her nice girl facade legitimizes the trio's rule as they make the rest of the social circle think they like the trio more than they actually do. Even though the clique works as one complete force, each member brings something different to the table, which is why they must stick together for the system to work and maintain the power dynamic. The real world. When comparing how society is in real life versus what society is like in the movies and the media, the main and biggest difference is how the media tends to exaggerate social dynamics. While yes, there are prevalent leaders in society, they aren't as blunt, as dramatic as they are presented in fictional society. The only thing fiction gets right is the structure of works of real-life social dynamics. This social dynamic is often more divided in films and series directed to teenagers and young adults. When presented the Mean Girl, Movies and series often make her a literal dictator, while the rest of her clique are just little workers, as said by Damien in Mean Girls. As stated before, the Mean Girl and her clique work as one complete force. The whole social hierarchy is based on a system dictated by them. Politics, oligarchy. Saying that a mean girl is a dictator might be okay, but it's not completely accurate. While the mean girl is a dictator, decisions and rules are not made and enforced by her alone. Rather, the system working under the mean girl does it. It works under her clique as a whole, which would make it an oligarchy. The term oligarchy literally means ruled by few. This few being the mean girl and her clique, and the social circle we're referring to, all making unanimous decisions. An important detail about oligarchy is that it usually involves people with one or more outstanding characteristics, such as beauty, wealth, intelligence, above others. What makes this detail important resides in how Aristotle pioneered the term as ruled by the rich, as the rich comprise a small percentage of the population. Interestingly, the mean girl is often portrayed as someone conventionally attractive and wealthy. This traits immediately classifying her as being above her peers in terms of social standing. When relating this ruled by the rich to the real world, we may encounter the way adults deal with this social dynamic. The social dynamic. While in teenage years, popularity is key to understanding the top of the social hierarchy, when we grow up, we will realize how much economic power, social influence, and good social status are key to giving a good life. Both in high school and adult life, looks and money are to a good social standing. The main difference being that in adult life, you will need to get a good job, have great connections, and maintain a professional image. Of course, social groups will still exist, but they will become much more exclusive as by that time most people have already established their social circle and are not really looking into expanding it. Effect on teenagers. The rejection of femininity. The dramatic and satirical portrayals of mean girls in series and films directed at teenagers has had an impact, especially on the mentality and views teens have on how real life works. The first example of this change in mentality is the rejection of femininity because of the demonization of hyperfemininity. The fact that almost every mean girl is hyperfeminine, meaning exaggerating their femininity by their characterization, choice of color, which is usually pink, and mannerisms, all while making the mean girl the antagonist. This demonizes femininity. As a response, many girls have started rejecting femininity as a whole. The best example of this rejection being the rise of the "I'm not like other girls," the in-log, since the 2000s, a time where mean girls in movies and series had a boom. And as of right now, nearly every movie and series has at least one mean girl or one clique. The in-log girl is characterized by rejecting femininity as a whole. While this aspect is not really bad, what it's bad, it's putting other girls down for liking stereotypically feminine things. Another example of the change of perspective in teens is the rise of media series, featuring teenagers but being directed to older audiences. The best examples are series like Elite, Euphoria, and Skins. These shows romanticize teen life in a dark light, often involving drugs, sex, and violence as their main themes. This shows change in perspective as it reflects how teen years are disappearing and how teenagers now want to be and act like adults. These movies and series tend to exaggerate how adults see the world these days, and this portrayal doesn't really make a good difference in how teenagers act. It just makes the current problem worse. It is, in a sense, teenagers mimicking what adults do. To finish up this analysis and systematic examination, we can conclude on 3 things. Number 1. Not every queen bee is a mean girl, and being popular doesn't mean someone is a mean. A mean girl is characterized by her keen intelligence. She knows how the world works and how she can control it. But just as she's portrayed, oftentimes many positive aspects of her personality are demonized because of how she is presented as an antagonist. The best example being her hyperfemininity, which leads to the demonization of femininity and rejection by this femininity by teenage girls in order not to be seen as girly or mean. Number 2. The social dynamic resides in politics. Her whole power resides in her clique, and every member serves a different purpose. If one of them loses faith in the leader, their system falls apart, making the social dynamic an oligarchy. Number 3. Teenagers mimic what they see on the media. If the media portrays a group of adolescents doing illegal things, such as in their foreign sex education, teens will undoubtedly do the same. They also mimic what adults do, in their own little world and perspective. Just how in real life, people who are powerful often stand at the top of the social hierarchy with great businesses and great wealth, they do the same but with popularity, as they don't have the means to achieve that yet. If you stay till the end of the video, thank you so much. These are the references I used for this video. Until next time.